Chains, we need them, right? But how much do we need a chain? So Aaron Gwin and Rachel Atherton more recently have proved that you can go super fast without a chain. So Rachel Atherton actually made time on the most pedally section of Fort William without a chain. But how does that chain affect the suspension? Why does it affect the suspension? And can we design a solution to this problem? Have you heard of pedal kickback? Well, when your rear suspension moves, of course your rear axle moves up and down, but what that does, it puts tension onto your chain, and that restricts your suspension movement. So how do you lose that tension? Well, sometimes your cassette can roll forward, but it might not always do that because you might be braking. Or your chainring can roll backwards, but if you've got all your weight on the pedals, that isn't going to happen either. Therefore, your suspension is restricted. So how do we get rid of that chain tension? Well, first thing you do is you can get rid of the chain. We have done that in the past. We've done videos where we've just taken it off and suspension works really well. Of course, that's what happened to Aaron Gwin and Rachel Atherton, but it's not ideal. Obviously, you can't pedal anywhere. The second option is to invent a neutral gear. So this isn't an original idea. I've actually stolen this idea from the UK suspension wizard, Chris Porter, who's known for his innovation of bike design and basically experimenting with things. So all you do is replace the bottom sprockets of your cassette with these spacers. So basically I'm gonna change down to here and my chain can sit on that and will freely rotate forwards or backwards and completely freeing up my suspension. So is it gonna work? Is it practical? Am I going to smash my knee into my stem when I try and pedal and I forget that I'm in my neutral gear? Let's find out. So I'm running a Shimano XT 11-speed cassette. It's an 1142. I've got rid of those two smallest sprockets. So it's 9-speed. I'm sure you worked that one out yourselves. So I've got rid of the 11 and the 13. So now my biggest gear is 32 up front, 15 on the rear. So it's not massive. The big thing to remember is how it feels. So I know on that next shift, I'm in neutral, and then don't try and pedal. So the real test is, will it shift back up off my neutral gear into the cassette? And actually it does, but a 3215 isn't a very big gear at all, so I'm not finding that useful. I might be able to stick a 13 back on there and just run one spacer for the chain to sit on as a neutral. However, I'm finding it's not foolproof. It can drop off the bottom of the cassette, get jammed in the frame, and then that's the worst of both worlds. I can't pedal, and it's putting tension back on the chain, but back into neutral I go. Well, so how does it actually feel? The bike certainly feels way more active, especially braking in corners for some reason. You actually have to really think about pumping and picking your lines to come out of corners fast, because you know you can't pedal. It's actually really impressive and a lot of fun to ride like this. There's something about this, I reckon, that really works. Well, it's been actually really interesting to feel the difference in suspension with that neutral gear, but I think it's time to put it to test, put some times up on the board and see if it's actually faster. To the run with a chain, well, definitely felt fast at the top, proper cranking hard. Definitely down in that 13 and 11. Felt rougher in the bottom. In that rough stuff, it definitely felt like the suspension wasn't quite supple. However, Strava tells me that the times were exactly the same. So it was a short track. I'm on an enduro bike. It was less than 2 minutes. But to the second, the times were exactly the same. I did make a little mistake in the run with the chain on. So actually, I think I probably could have taken a second or so off with the chain. But it's really interesting. I like to try this again on a downhill bike on a proper rough downhill track. Funny enough, we've got Val di Sole coming up. That's the next World Cup where you probably pedal out the gate and then that's it to the bottom. So I wonder if any downhillers should try it. I'd love to see someone do it and see how they got on at that World Cup. So interesting stuff. And let's see what happens with future designs of bikes like the Canyon Sender Disconnect. Is it going to happen? Who knows? If you're interested in this test and you want to see exactly how I made this bike with this neutral gear, head over to the GMBN tech channel where I talk about suspension kinematics and exactly how I made this bike and a bit more about the suspension designs and how they're affected by chains. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video and don't forget to hit that sub button.